For All Mankind, Season 3 will continue the epic story that began with a provocative premise. What if the Russians landed on the moon first, before Americans? The space race never ended, and the two Cold War foes only ramped up the competition to colonize the moon, and beyond. And with Season 2's crazy ending, many fans were left begging for another season, and lucky for them, a third one was announced. And many are going crazy after hearing what's in store for this next season. Stay tuned to hear why Season 3 For All Mankind will change everything. Before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos that we post. The Season 2 finale of For All Mankind was arguably one of the best episodes of the year so far. It was an action-packed, high-stakes, gut punch of a finale that killed off two beloved characters and set up an entirely new story for Season 3. In the finale, the conflict between the Americans and the Russians reaches a crisis point, both on Earth and on the moon. At the Jamestown base, the Marines engage the Russian cosmonauts in a gunfight, which leads to the potential meltdown of a nuclear reactor. To save everyone on the base and to prevent the moon from becoming uninhabitable for thousands of years, Gordo and Tracy had to fix the problem. They covered themselves in duct tape and ran into the harsh environment of the lunar surface. And although they were successful, they also lost their lives in the process. However, they died as heroes in each other's arms. Meanwhile, in lunar orbit, Ed faced off against Sally over blasting a Russian spacecraft. In orbit around Earth on Apollo, Daniel went against orders and docked with the Soyuz. Her handshake with the cosmonaut gets broadcast around the globe and inspires President Reagan to make peace with the Russians. After the emotional funerals of the Stevensons, Margot receives a call from her Soviet counterpart Sergei. But it turns out that he had been working for the intelligent agents to try turn Margot into an asset for their side. And then the camera swoops over to Mars, where a pair of boots crunches on the red soil. It's 1995. With that cliffhanger of an ending, many fans were excited when AppleTv confirmed For All Mankind Season 3 renewal back in December of 2020, ahead of the Season 2 release, and filming for Season 3 began back in February of 2021. However, AppleTv hasn't set a premiere date just yet, which isn't surprising considering filming only started a few months back. It takes time to film a series like this. And then there's the post-production work that's still to come. Season 1 premiered in November 2019, but we had to wait until February 2020 for Season 2. Well, part of that was due to the pandemic. It was also about the time many expected the season to premiere. So based on the filming schedule and how much post-production work and special effects will be required, many are guessing to look at April 2022 at the very earliest for Season 3, but we could have to wait up ending for the summer depending on how long filming and post-production takes. Also taking into consideration that there are still COVID protocols that could lead to filming taking longer than normal. So while we may not see the new season for a while, here's some of what to expect when it does finally release. In For All Mankind, Ellen begins advocating for a Mars mission early on in Season 2, so the writers were hinting at the direction of the show would be moving on towards. And while For All Mankind Season 3 will likely center on Mars, it looks like the missions will be quite different from the real Mars explorations of the 90s. In 1995, NASA announced the Mars Surveyor program, but these missions involved observer probes to study the planet remotely as the program began looking for less expensive ways to explore space. For All Mankind's time jump to the 90s also raises the question as to whether Kelly, Alita, and Danny might become more central characters in For All Mankind Season 3, as they will be 10 years older and could all potentially be working for NASA at that point. If so, it would be interesting to see how the show will choose to transform the young characters in order to age them a whole decade, when in reality, only a year will have passed between filming. There are many questions and character storylines to pick up in For All Mankind Season 3, like what will happen with Margot and Sergei. Will Margot end up working for the Soviets? Will Ed and Karen get divorced? Will Molly lose her sight? On top of all the new story elements that the Mars plotline is sure to include, these Season 2 plotlines will likely be addressed in For All Mankind Season 3. Another new aspect of the upcoming season is that it will increasingly move further away from the real history, as the series will continue to skip ahead a decade per season with its storytelling, which was made clear by the writers of the show. The actions taken by the US and the Soviet Union in Season 2 will create a bigger narrative chasm between reality and fiction. One of the writers, the Divi, said we're adapting history, and the fun of that is picking and choosing the things that will change, but also the things that didn't change. One of the fun elements in crafting the show was not just what is different from actual history, but maybe finishing the stories that never got their chance. Like Molly Cobb is based on the Mercury 13 astronaut that never got to be part of the space program. If you're someone who really loves history, there's a lot to take from the show, and there's Easter eggs throughout, but the major plot is still what it is. And the further we go, the more change will be apparent. Actor Joel Kinnaman, who plays astronaut Edward Baldwin, said that the more writers explore their alternative timeline, the more excited he gets about what they'll be asked to play. I feel like the deeper into the seasons we go, show, we started to tread into more sci-fi territory in some ways, he explained, but the way that we've gotten there, by staying anchored to our sum of history, just makes that journey very, very grounded. For me, when I joined, the grand vision of the show is so spectacular, Kinnaman continued. Now that we're about to go and shoot the third season, we are really seeing that grand vision play out. Even for people that are watching the second season, they'll start to understand what this show really is. He compared season 1 to almost a mashup of Mad Men meets the NASA environment, but said the show is much bigger than that scope. Now we're starting to show audiences what that vision is, and it's a lot of fun. Along with some of the other things in the upcoming season, the big ensemble cast for All Mankind will experience some changes in season 3, however they're somewhat hard to predict. One thing is for sure, while this is an alternative world, it's not a fantasy one, as it's going to be difficult to bring Michael Dorman and Sarah Jones back. Considering that the two characters sacrificed themselves to save Moon from nuclear destruction in season 2, we shouldn't expect them back in season 3 unless it's through flashbacks. However, it's rumored that the main cast members could return, though they'll need an old age makeup since their characters will be in their 40s or 50s. That includes Joel Kinnaman as Ed, Chantel Van Santen as Karen, Jodie Belfour as Ellen, and Wrench Smith as Margot. And it's even possible that we'll see Sonia Welzer as Molly Cobb, but after her moonwalk during the solar flares, she's already experiencing the early stages of glaucoma and may possibly develop cancer. The younger generation is likely to stick around though, including Carla Pena as Alita, Casey W. Johnson as Danny, and Cynthia Wu as Kelly. Some are even saying that one of the latter two could even possibly be the astronaut wearing the boots on the surface of the Mars. As the co-creator of the alternate history spaceflight series for All Mankind, Ron Moore has spent the past few years thinking hard about alternate universes, but we're all lucky to live in the one where he became such a dynamic and thoughtful influence on sci-fi TV. When asked if there's a plan for how long this goes on, how many decades will be explored, if the show will go to the future at any point, and whatnot, here's what Moore had to say. There's a plan. There was generally a 7-year arc of structure that we pitched originally. Each season would go roughly 10 years into the future. So you catch up to the modern day and go a little bit into the future. That said, these things are changeable and organic. We approach each season fresh, even though we have a big framework of what the next season's supposed to be. We always start at the beginning and say, okay, this is what we talked about 2 years ago. Let's make sure this holds up. Is this still where we want to go? So you can come to a point where you decide to end the show at a certain point, or you can decide that the show is going gangbusters and you go past the end point. Everything is still on the table. But yeah, the plan was to go into the future to catch up, to see what is the world we would live in today. How would that be different in this timeline? That's one of the tantalizing ideas of the story. And then what would go on beyond that? I think that's still the ambition of what we're trying to do, he concluded. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.